the enigmatic entrepreneur whose words will make you sure. Know, trust, and believe. The master teacher has come to help you succeed. The gem dropper, the truth speaker, the voice in the universe that will bring you to your highest peak. Welcome to the Get High on Motivation show with Mimi the Motivator, your favorite motivator's favorite motivator.
Welcome to life eternal. The time is here, the time is now. So pick up and put on your crown. Goodbye to yesterday. Welcome to life eternal.
Peace and blessings, love bugs. Before we get started, let's take 3 quick deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again, slow and deep. And then take one more deep breath. And this time, let it out with a sigh. And we're going to jump right into our conversation about boundaries.
I'm excited about today's conversation because boundaries, boy, have been on my mind so hard. So hard. Boundaries are so important. Lord have mercy, y'all just don't know. Boundaries. I'm always talking about taking inventory in our lives, right? It's not just the retail shops that need to take inventory. Let's first just consider, why do retail stores take inventory? They do a count. They count what's there and compare it to what they expect it to be there. Have you ever done that in your life? Have you taken account of where you are in comparison to where you desire to be? That's part of that taking inventory. But today we are taking inventory of our boundaries. Are our boundaries in the right space? Are our boundaries even valid? Have our boundaries expired? Because holding on to old past, might be holding on to some old boundaries too, but we're not going to get too far ahead of myself. So let's talk about this. Why do we even need boundaries? Well, first and foremost, what I always say is boundaries keep us safe. And they keep us safe in all kinds of ways. I don't mean just like physically safe, like having boundaries, having a fence around your house. But boundaries keep us safe mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. So we have to have boundaries. We have to have boundaries to protect ourselves from other people. We even have to have boundaries to protect ourselves from ourselves. Because there are some things that we need to hold back from ourselves. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. We're the cause and we are the cure. As much as we might want to think it's somebody else in our life that's the cause and the cure of our pain and the cause and the cure of our happiness, we are the cause and the cure. And how we do that is by establishing healthy boundaries in our life. We have to have healthy boundaries in our work life, in our personal life, professional life, or in our romantic life, even in our family life. We have to have these boundaries to protect ourselves and to protect other people as well from us sometimes. Because not only do we need to protect ourselves from people and protect ourselves from ourselves, every blue moon, you might know yourself well enough to know that you need to protect somebody from you. Be honest with yourself and really consider that last one. Boundaries allow other people to know where they stand, what they can do, what's okay, what's not okay, how close can they get, and how far they better stay away. It sets a tone of expectation when you have boundaries. Anybody in my personal life, the people in my professional life know that I am off the grid on Mondays. You can't call me. You can't text me. You can't nothing me. You can't Facebook Messenger me. You can't DM me. And you better not knock on my door. I am not to be bothered on a Monday. It is my me day. It's my day for me to pour in. It's a boundary that I have set in place. I have these boundaries to protect me from myself, from getting out of whack. Because if I get a whack, then people going to need protection from me. That is for sure. But also, these boundaries allow us to manage our relationships better. Manage our personal and professional relationships. When you have a boundary, when you are an employee and you say, well, I signed up to work on these days from this time to this time, when they call you outside of that, you can definitely Stand firm on your boundaries and say, hey, I only signed up to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Today is Saturday and it's 2:00. I'm not coming. It's all about boundaries. But something else that's very important about boundaries is once we've recognized our boundaries, it's very important that we express them clearly. We can't just expect for people to know. You have to express, this is what it is. This is how it works over here. And if people have a problem with that, that's their business. That's not your business. So don't make it your problem. Don't make it your business. The next thing that I want to talk about is, are you clear on what healthy boundaries even look like? Some of us don't know what healthy boundaries look like because we never seen them expressed. We never seen them demonstrated. We've seen moms and mothers get walked all over. We've seen our parents, we've seen our children, we've seen our coworkers. It's happened to us because of lack of boundaries. And there's a difference between boundaries and limits. Limits, I don't do limits. I am limitless. I serve a limitless universe. I have a limitless resource at my fingertips. I believe in being limitless. I'm not placing no limits on me, and I won't place any limits on you, but I will place boundaries for us both because there is a difference. A boundary is drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where it stops. And don't you cross over this line. If you cross over the line, then something's going to happen to you. That's not a limit. That's a boundary. A limit is constricting. A limit is constraining. A boundary gives you freedom. It's a humongous difference because when you know what your boundaries are, then you know where to go, how far you can go. You know what the parameters are, whether it's in a new job position. I don't care if it's the dog going out in the yard and the dog knows how far to go and how far not to go. It's all about boundaries, not limits. And very often people think what they call boundaries are really walls. Boundaries don't wall people out or wall experiences out. It doesn't block. That's not what boundaries are for. Boundaries are not to block because boundaries can be invisible. But people typically call it a boundary, but it's a wall keeping out love, keeping out experience. Well, I don't let this happen because something happened to you in the past. That's called a wall. That's not a boundary. The boundary is not going so far to allow yourself to get into that uncomfortable position. That's a boundary. A wall is not letting anybody even in, not even dating, not even considering being emotionally available to someone. That is a wall. Some of us have even walled out possibilities for ourselves because we've never seen them, or because we tried one time and it didn't happen. So we put a wall and we put our own dead end sign. We built our own brick wall. The wall didn't even exist. It was a clear, free path. But because the path kind of curved a little bit, we felt like it wasn't going our way. And it was a wall now there that we put there. It might be time for us to knock some of these walls down in our life so we can live a little freer, so we can experience a little more love and a little more life. Do you even know the people's boundaries in your life? Because boundaries are a measure of relationship health. When we have healthy boundaries, we typically have healthy relationships. When we have unhealthy relationships, it is a clear indicator that there are some boundaries that have not been identified, expressed, and upheld, either by you or the other person. We always want other people to hold up our boundaries when we don't even respect our own boundaries. Don't step on my toes. Don't come over here, but I'm going to come over there. Come on, man. This can't be a double standard. Boundaries can't have double standards. And we need to be able to not only identify and honor our own boundaries, but identify and recognize and honor other people's boundaries. And know what is the line. And don't cross it with them. Physically, emotionally, whatever it might be. Because we know when we're getting on somebody's nerves and we know when it's time to stop. But some of us keep going and we keep pushing. And now the person has acted drastically what we think is uncalled for. But we were the one who pushed them there because we were not honoring their personal boundaries. There's unhealthy boundaries and there's also a lack of boundaries. Some of us just don't have boundaries. We just go with the flow. We've never decided what is enough, what's too much. Where am I not willing to go? The 4 questions I always ask all my clients: who are you? What do you desire? What are you willing to do and what are you not willing to do? Those are your boundaries. What you're willing to do and not willing to do, boundaries. Taking on too much, How many of us say yes to too many things? That's having unhealthy boundaries. We're saying yes when we know that the answer really should be no, because we don't have time. We don't have the energy. We don't even maybe even have the interest, but we just say yes because we like the person or we want the person to like us. Let me tell you something. There's this thing called rejection sensitivity. Rejection sensitivity is when you take on too much just to please other people because you don't want to feel rejected. You don't want to reject them or have them feel rejected. This is rejection sensitivity. How about we do some rejection insensitivity? Because people are going to reject us and we are going to reject people. And we need to be okay with the word no in whatever form it comes in. Not right now, not today. I just can't. Accept people's no's because their no is part of their boundary. Be okay with saying no because your no is identifying your boundary. You don't got to say, well, listen, this is my boundary. You can just say no to participating in certain things. Saying no to participating with certain people is boundaries. Because please believe it's you, it's not them. You got your hands in too many pots. And now you stressed out. And now you worried. And now you stressing everybody else out. And now you mad at them because they're not delivering the way you deliver. And they're not producing the way you produce. And they don't work as hard as you work. They're not putting in as much as you put in. They don't contribute to the relationship the way you contribute to the relationship. That's because of boundaries. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Lack of boundaries increase conflict because there is a give and take that's out of balance. Somebody's giving and somebody's taking and not giving back or not reciprocating in the same manner. That's where conflict arises. That's where the most conflict arises in relationships. Somebody feels like they're giving more than the other person. I even feel like that sometimes in my business. I have partners in one of my companies. And sometimes I have that resentment feeling because I feel like I'm doing more than them. I believe in the vision more than them. It's not them. It's me. It's my lack of boundaries. There are 6 places that we just absolutely, positively must have boundaries in. And we're going to go over those boundaries and then we'll circle back and we'll review. So the first type of boundary definitely is a physical boundary. We must have physical boundaries. That can look like somebody not getting too close to you. That can mean going on a date and somebody not kissing you yet because you're not ready. Physical boundaries can look like a fence around your yard. Physical boundaries can be sticking out your hand to shake somebody's hand when they're going for a hug. I'm a hugger and I'm probably going to hug you anyway, but I don't know. But we definitely have to have physical boundaries. We have to have locks on our doors. That's a boundary. But we have to have physical boundaries that are clear for anybody to be able to acknowledge and see. The second most important boundary to have is an emotional boundary. Guard your emotions and you guard them with boundaries. I'm not saying wall them in. I'm not saying you got to protect them from the outside world because then that means you'll never experience anything. But we need to have emotional boundaries. We need to know what is our limit of when we get to that part. And I don't mean the limits that I was talking about earlier, but that line where we know when we get to this point, we can't go any further. We have to know what it is, how much we can actually love and put into a relationship and how much we're even willing to receive and communicate that with our partner. We have to know what we can really even handle at work. Because at work, if you're a hard worker, then they will put more work on you. They will expect more from you than anybody else. When we have those emotional boundaries, we can say, hey, I can't take this. Hey, I'm stressed. When you have an emotional boundary, you know when to take a break, to take 3 deep breaths, or to go take a trip to the bathroom for a minute. You have to have emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries look like when you're in an argument, you're saying, you know what, this might not be the best time for us to talk about this. Can we talk about this later? Let's revisit this later. That's emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries is not allowing anybody to even rain on your parade or bust your bubble. If you know you happy-go-lucky and you know it's somebody who just not so happy, protect yourself by having emotional boundaries. Number 3 on my list is having time boundaries. Your time is your greatest asset. Not your money, not your shoes, not anything else you've been collecting. Your time is your most valuable asset. You cannot get it back. There is no refund. There is no exchange except for the exchange you're making at this moment. So thank you for exchanging some time with me and investing some energy and time with me and for yourself. But we have to have time boundaries. My phone is set on do not disturb. It automatically goes on do not disturb at about, I think, 9 o'clock at night. And it stays on do not disturb until 10 a.m. Because I don't need anybody bothering me. Because I might be doing the right thing in life, and I might be meditating. I might be reading or journaling or just doing something that is productive. And then that phone rings and now I'm off track. A lot of us have notifications going off on our phone. Those notifications go off and now we're off track. And an hour has gone by and the thing that was most important for us to get done was not done because of lack of time boundary. We have to have a time boundary of how much time we even spend with people. I'll give you 30 minutes for free. Anything after that, we might have to talk about an invoice because I have time boundaries. I'm willing to only give so much. I'm only willing to give so much to somebody, and I let them know this because this is boundaries and it keeps me healthy in every sense of the word. Number 4, we need to have sexual boundaries. You need to know how far are you willing to go and how far are you not willing to go. When is it pineapples? And we got to be able to know what is our safe word so somebody can know it's pineapples. I'm not okay with that. I don't do that. You might have to go find somebody else for that. But be careful what you say out loud and be careful where you send somebody. But know what are your boundaries and also what are your partner's boundaries so that you can respect them. And if you want to expand those boundaries, have the conversation. Don't just push somebody's boundaries out. That's not okay. Don't be deboing nobody's boundaries. There's some words that I don't want to say that can fall into, but we're not going there. We all know what that looks like. We all know what that means to push past somebody's sexual boundaries. And many of us have had that experience happen to us. And if you're somebody, reach out and get help because we need help in these areas. It's not okay for anybody to cross our sexual boundaries. Number 5, our intellectual boundaries. We have to be in a safe space when it comes to expressing our thoughts and our emotions with someone. And we need to know how much is okay to express and share with someone. We also need to know that it is okay. Is it okay for someone to share their thoughts with you and not be bombarded with negativity? We have to have our intellectual boundaries. We have to know who and where is the place to share our ideas, to share our visions, to share our dreams. Because some people are ready to SHIT all over what you got brewing. So have intellectual boundaries. Intellectual boundaries, even when you get out into the legal world, there's intellectual property. So make sure that you're copywriting your songs that you write or your poems. Making sure that you are protecting your ideas, trademarks. All of that goes into having intellectual boundaries. The last one on my list is material boundaries. And this is the one that most of us probably need to identify the most. This is letting people use your stuff, borrowing, lending, material possessions, how you allow people to treat your stuff. I remember having a vehicle that I really loved. It was really nice. And it was very nice on the inside with light interior. So there was no food or drink in my vehicle. You can have a bottle of water. I can maintain that, but you're not having no McDonald's in my car. It was a boundary because I wanted to protect my car from your grease stains and your ketchup and whatever else, your soda. It was a boundary that I set in place because I wanted to value what I had. That's something else that boundaries do is value. It values. It shows our values, not only to ourselves, but to other people. Having healthy boundaries show people how much we really value ourselves. Most importantly, when you don't have boundaries, it's because you don't respect yourself. Typically, people with no boundaries have low self-esteem. And it's not too late to start boundaries. And it's not too late to start building up your self-esteem and your confidence in yourself. But it definitely begins with having these boundaries. Having physical, emotional, time, sexual, intellectual, and material boundaries. And I want to recap. Why do we need boundaries? To keep us safe in all those areas that we just talked about. They keep us safe from ourselves, from other people, and keep people safe from us as well. It allows people to know where and what they can do and how they can do it. Boundaries are not limits. Boundaries are not walls. They're more like imaginary lines that we draw in the sand in the different areas of our life. So that way we don't cross them and we don't allow anyone to cross them. Unhealthy boundaries and a lack of boundaries looks like you taking on too much. You saying yes when you really need to say no. Unhealthy boundaries look like unhealthy relationships. Lack of boundaries creates resentment and it increases conflict. So with us knowing all of this, it's time for all of us, including Mimi the Motivator, to reassess our boundaries and make sure our boundaries are still valid. Make sure that they are strongly expressed, not in a rah-rah kind of way, but in a very clear, these are my boundaries way. But also, our boundaries need to be upheld by us, not by other people. Honor your own boundaries. Continue to adjust them as you need to, because they will need to be adjusted. And keep coming back for more. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with somebody. Share it with somebody that you love. Share it with somebody that's been getting on your nerves. Share it with somebody that's been crossing your boundaries or who needs to identify boundaries in their own life. I am Mimi the Motivator, your favorite motivator's favorite motivator, and this is the Get Higher Motivation Show. I love you all so, so very much, and I appreciate you even more. Be happy, be healthy, be you.
Living now, a life of tears. Listen now, have no fear, and put on your crown.
I like to turn my life to eternal life. Recognize the difference. Start tonight. Life to turn eternal life. Recognize the difference. Life to turn eternal life. Recognize the difference. Start tonight.